Hello, my name is Bella and welcome to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast, where I talk to you about all the things I've been making recently, usually knitting, sewing, or fiber arts related. This week I have some knitted garments to show you that I'm working on, and they're turning into actual garments now, so I'm really excited how they're coming along. And I also have some sewing to show you guys. I haven't talked about sewing on this channel for quite a while, and I felt I should get back into it. So yeah, let's get into it. So if you are new to me and this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and watching. Today, I just wanted to say a big shout out and thank you to all of you guys who have been following me along on this journey, on this podcast that I'm making. It just means so much to me that so many people are interested in what I'm doing and interested in creating a community around this channel. It's just so amazing to me how all of us can be connected through this platform worldwide. I've seen a lot of people commenting on my videos and reaching out to me from literally all over the world. I'm based in Los Angeles, California, and I've had people coming to me from Canada and the UK and Spain and just all over the world. It's just so amazing to me. So thank you so much for being here. It's lovely to meet all of you and hear what you guys are working on and hear your thoughts on what I'm working on, and it's just a really cool community that we're building here. So with that said, let me get into what I've been making this week. So there was no podcast episode last week, so I have quite a few things to talk to you about this week. There were a lot of things going on in my life, and there was a bit of a family emergency that happened. It's all okay now, it's all fine, but I won't get into it exactly what happened here. But it got busy and crazy and I couldn't film. So this is 2 weeks worth of episode in one episode, if that makes sense. So let me get into what I have to show you first. So this first thing I'm going to show you is a project that I've been working on for a couple weeks now. This is a TestKnit for Taylor Owen. And she also has a podcast here on YouTube talking about knitting and all things like that. And recently she has gotten into designing knitting patterns, and I'm test knitting her first garment pattern, her first garment design. So that has been coming along the past few weeks. So let me show you where I'm at now. This is what it's looking like. It's turning into an actual garment now. I have the arms attached. And let me see if I can get the full thing in here. Okay, that's what it's looking like. So this has been very fun to knit on. The past few weeks I've been working almost solely on this, for knitting at least. I've been doing a lot of work on this. But last week I finished the arms. I started and finished on the arms. So this pattern is called the Owen cardigan, and that name comes from the cables that are in the front and the back. So over here, hopefully that'll show up, there are 2 cables running down the center. So like this, these cables. So these are called the Owen design, is what Taylor's calling them. And then on the back as well, I'll show you on the back, there's a huge panel of these cables, which I think is just so gorgeous. And it was one of the things that drew me to the pattern in the first place, was this kind of panel of cables. So I just think that's so pretty in the back. And they're really shining now since I have a lot of the pattern done. I really like how they're looking. And they're going to open up even more when I block this. This is unblocked. I just started knitting on this and haven't blocked it since. So yes, last week I started and finished on the arms. So they both look the same. They're just plain stockinette and then some ribbing at the bottom. And the cast-on in this project is very interesting, very cool. Both of the cast-ons I had never done before. So on the body, you start at the bottom. This is bottom up. So you start on the bottom and then you work the ribbing and you go up and so on. And then same for the arms, you go bottom up. So the cast-on for both of these was really cool. For the arms, it's a 2x2 twisted rib cast on, which I had never done before. I had never even heard about it. So that was really cool. It kind of creates, I might get some close-up footage for this so you can actually see what I'm talking about. But it kind of creates like a rolled hem. Normally I do a long tail cast on method, and it creates like, it looks like little knit stitches all the way around the bottom, like little V's. That's not how this looks. This looks like it like disappears into nothing. I don't really know how to explain it. It's really, really cool. And I've never seen that before, and I just think it's a beautiful touch to the hem of a cuff on your sleeve. I think it's really, really nice. It was a bit of a process. Taylor includes a link to, I think it's Very Pink's video of like a tutorial on how to do this. And that was really helpful. I just, kept pausing and working my way through it as I worked the cast on, working through the video. So that was really easy to follow, but it was a lot of steps. You have to get your crochet hook out and do some picking up stitches, and multiple needles are involved, and it's kind of a process just for a cast on. But if you like this look, which I do, of the edge here, I think it's definitely worth it. And it wasn't very many stitches because it's a cuff, so I thought it was good. So yeah, I like how that came out. So yeah, I have both of the arms finished, and the arms were really quick to make, I think just because they were stockinette. And then I joined them to the body. Also on the body, I finished the pockets. So there are 2 pockets in the front. Hopefully I can get this in the frame. It's getting so big now, it's hard for me to fit it. So I haven't tacked down the pockets on the inside. They're still like open and loose under here. So I have to do that. I'm thinking I'll do it after the whole thing's blocked. I don't know, maybe not. I'm not sure when I'm going to sew them together yet. But yeah, I still have to do that. And then also on the pockets this week, I added this little, according to the pattern, I added the little ribbing to the pockets to kind of finish them off. And I also need to tack down the sides of that because those are kind of just hanging out right now. But I really love the pockets. I think they're absolutely adorable and so beautiful. And I'm really happy they're there. This is the first garment I've made with pockets in it. I think it's going to be great because this is a cardigan. So it's going to have buttons down the middle so you can open it up and wear it closed or open. And I think it'll just be such a great piece to just chuck on whenever I'm cold. I always get cold. So whenever I'm chilly, this will be a great thing to have. It's very neutral, just this brown. The yarn, if you haven't seen me talk about this before, if you haven't seen my other podcast episodes, the yarn is Harrisville Designs Highland wool, I believe that's what it's called. It's a worsted weight yarn, which definitely helps in making this whole project go a lot faster. I've been working on another knitted garment, and it's like a fingering weight, and a sweater, and it's taking a long time. So having a worsted weight project is very nice. And the yarn is very nice too. It's completely wool. I'm not sure what kind of wool, what breed or anything like that, but I know it's 100% wool. Maybe I'll put down here if I can find what it actually is. So it's very, very rustic feel. And it's also woolen spun, which makes a really nice texture to the yarn. I really love woolen spun yarns. They're just so cozy. And like I said, I am a test knitter for this project. And this week I definitely felt like I was a test knitter. So there was a bit of a mistake in the pattern that I found. I'm really glad I found it for Taylor, but there was a mistake. And that's okay, because I'm a test knitter and I kind of signed up for this. Like that's the point of a test knitter, is to knit the garment and make sure that the pattern is written correctly so that there are no mistakes when the pattern actually gets published. So I knew what I was signing up for, and it's actually kind of cool that I actually found something. So what happened was I was knitting along the body, and then I knit the arms separate. And then at some point in the pattern, she has you join them together, and then you start doing decreases for the top. So basically what happened was I was going along in the pattern, and then she lays out, whenever you do decreases or anything, she tells you like what your final stitch count should be. Most patterns do this. That's a general rule of thumb. I think most people do that. But I was counting my stitches as I thought I should do. As a good test knitter, I was making sure everything was lining up to the pattern on my project. So I was counting the stitches, and I realized my stitch count was quite off. I don't remember the exact amount of stitches that I had more stitches than what Taylor said it should have. So I started freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? And I felt like I had gone through the pattern very, precisely. I felt like I hadn't made any mistakes. So when the stitch count didn't line up, I was like, oh gosh, like I can't even imagine what I did wrong. So I went back through the pattern, starting from the very beginning, going all the way through, counting my stitches in my knitting and making sure they were lining up to what the pattern was saying. This yarn being so thick, it being worsted, it was a lot easier to do that. Since the stitches are a lot bigger, it was a lot easier to like count my stitches and make sure I was having all the correct numbers. So I was going through the pattern and making sure everything lined up, and checking it off when it made sense and my piece matched the pattern. So going through, and then at one point I figured out that basically where the arms would join was lopsided. So let me show you. In the back, basically what was going to happen was where the arms joined on either side, they wouldn't be equidistant from this cable panel in the back here. So like one arm would be closer to it slightly, and then the other arm would be a little bit further away. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, did I do this wrong, or is the pattern wrong? And I emailed Taylor. I was like, hey, wrote out what I was going through, try to help me out, walk me through what's going on here. Am I wrong? What's going on? And she kindly responded very, very quickly, which I was very thankful for. And we figured out the math together, and it was incorrect. So she had miscalculated one step, and it was incorrect. But that's okay, because now it's corrected. So I'm really, really happy that we did that and that we fixed it. Because if this had gone out, like if I hadn't realized it and this had gone out that way, I don't think any of the other test knitters had realized this yet, the mistake that was in the pattern. So I'm really, really happy that we found the mistake and fixed it. So I don't think there's any other mistakes besides that, because everything else has been coming out smoothly and all well so far. So yeah, basically what I had to do was rip back the arms. So I had gotten a little bit further in my knitting than where I am right now. I had knit a bit more of with the arms joined. So I had to rip back a bit, which, that's never fun. But it was definitely necessary. I mean, I didn't want a cardigan that would be lopsided. No point in spending all this time in something that you don't absolutely love, at least for me. But anyways, so yeah, I had to rip back a bit and, do the correct calculations and then rejoin the arms. But it turned out absolutely fine. I hadn't put in a lifeline, which I have seen people do in the past, which is it's basically where you put a scrap yarn through your stitches as you work. So like an entire row, say here maybe, you would put a scrap yarn through all of your stitches so that if something were to happen and you had to rip back, then you could rip all the way back to your lifeline and it would act as your cable, like of your cable needle. It would act as the cable, so it would keep all your stitches in place. And especially for cables, like all of these crazy cable work things going on here, that would have been really, really smart for me to do and put in a lifeline, but I didn't do that at the time. So what I ended up doing was, when I realized I would have to knit back, or rip back, sorry, when I realized that, I figured put in a lifeline as well as I can. For stockinette, it was pretty easy to like find the row and put in the lifeline for all the stitches in the row. But for the cables, I didn't do it right. So it took me a really long time to rip back to the place right before I joined the arms. Took me a while, but it was okay. I just tinked back. Once I got to a certain point, I just started tinking back one by one stitch by one stitch, and it took a long time, but it's okay now, and I joined it again, and we're smooth sailing, and it's coming out great. So that was a long story. Sorry, hopefully I didn't bore you. But yeah, so this pattern is coming out all well again. And the last thing I'll say for this pattern, for this particular project, is my plans for the button band. So basically, Taylor wrote this to be worked in the round, which I really, really love. So that it's a cardigan and it's going to open, but you have a steek before that happens. So these stitches here in the middle, these kind of plain ones in between the two cable panels, those are going to be cut open once this is all finished. She cuts it open, and then you add a ribbed button band to either side, and then add your buttons, and it's finished. So I have gotten the buttons in the mail. I'm really, really excited about them. I think they're going to look really nice with this. And yeah, so that's how this is coming along. I think that's all I have to say for this one this week. I think I've talked about enough of it. Let me get into the next project. And the next project today is a project that I have been working on for months and months and months, and it's taking me so long, and I don't know why. Probably because I'm working on other things. But anyways, this is a project that I have been knitting for my mother. Let me show you how it's coming along. So this is a sweater that I'm making for my mom. It is also a design that I am designing currently as I knit this, and I will be creating the pattern for it. Actually, I'm creating the pattern for it now, and I will be having it test knit and published sometime in the future, hopefully soon, probably soon. I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible without being too quick that I'm making mistakes. So I really, really like how it's coming along. And what I have done in the past 2 weeks is the bottom portion of the body here. So if you can see this, here we go. So I have finished the bottom cables. So I decided to keep going with what I showed you all last time, with the cable style that I showed you last time. The way that I designed the body is that there is decreasing from the bust to the waist, and then there is increasing from the waist to the hips, so that it gives you a really fitted, nicely fitted shape. So hopefully you can see that here. It kind of goes in towards the waist, you can see on either side, and then down here at the hips, there's increases with these cables. So how I did that was there's increases in between each cable instead of in the cables themselves. So that was kind of an idea I was playing with last time, and I asked you guys your opinion, and I think the consensus was leave it the way it is, it's gorgeous. So that's what I did, and I really, really like how it came out. So yeah, this is what it looks like. So the middle cables, these little small ones here, match the top turtleneck here. So it's the same cable design. And then there's bigger ones, which are double the size. And I really, really like the play between each of them. And I'll put an image here of what this looks like now. I put it on to make sure, I liked how it was fitting and working out and the length and everything. I really, really like how it came out. And I think the length is going to be perfect. So this is for my mom, as I said. And she is almost my size. She is a tiny bit bigger than I am. So I made this a little bit bigger for her than I would for myself, which is why it might look a tiny bit strange on me, especially on the top part because my chest is a lot smaller. But anyways, I'm really, really liking how it's coming out for her. I think it's so, so beautiful. So I have cast off the bottom. I still need to weave in the end here, but I really, really like how it came out. And this garment is just so cozy and fluffy. As I keep knitting and it keeps getting bigger and there's more fabric to it, it's just, it's like a cloud. I just want to curl up with it. It's so nice and fuzzy, and it's got mohair. So it's alpaca and mohair yarn that I'm using for this. And I was going to work on the sleeves this week. I wanted to cast on or pick up the stitches for the sleeves and get going on those. But the whole fiasco with the other pattern, with the other cardigan that I just showed you, that happened and took a lot of my time. So yeah, I didn't get time to cast on pick up the sleeves and work on those. But I'll definitely get that done this week. And I really like the play of the cables from the top to the bottom, how they're different, but they go together. They're quite similar. So yeah, I just love how this pattern is coming along. And in the past few weeks, I have also started actually knitting the pattern for it, the pattern that will be available at some point. As I've been making this, I was just kind of writing notes of what I was doing for this particular size. And now I'm going through the process of grading it for different sizes because I want it to be available in as many sizes as possible. I think this will be a really flattering pattern on everybody, so I want to make it, as widely available as possible. So I have been writing the actual pattern, and that's coming along well so far. I am figuring everything out and researching what I don't know, and this is going to be my first pattern ever, like knitting pattern that I'm designing ever. Hopefully I'm not diving into the deep end with going with a cardigan. I mean, not a cardigan, a garment first. But yeah, I think it's coming out well. And I think that's all I'll say for this one this week. Hopefully I have some more progress to show you next week on this garment. And now I will get into sewing. I also sew, so this channel has been mostly showing you my knitting in the past, but I also like to sew. So I will talk to you about what I'm wearing right now. This is a coat that I have been working on for quite some time. I talked about this coat in the very first episode on this channel, I believe. And this coat has been a project that has been in the works for so long. I don't even know how long it's been. It's felt like forever since I've had the fabric and the pattern picked out for this, and it's just been so long. But the actual time that I've spent sewing it has been a year already. I got a lot of work done on it last summer, and then the holidays happened and knitting happened. When it gets cold, we just get back into knitting. At least I do. So that happened, and the coat kind of went by the wayside. And I finally felt like this week I need to pick it back up. I need to finish this thing. It's taking too long. It just needs to be done. So let me tell you what it is. So it's a velvet coat, and I'll probably put a picture of the pattern that I'm using for this. It's from the 1970s, and I just love the 70s. I think the fashion from the 70s is just so wonderful. So I found this pattern, vintage pattern, and started making it. So I'm using silk velvet to make this pattern. I don't know if the color is going to come out perfectly on camera, but it's a nice kind of aubergine purple, kind of a royal purple with a bit of magenta maybe in it. In the light, it looks more like purpley, in the light it looks more pinky magenta-y color, and then when it's dark it's like a really rich purple. So I really, really love this color. This is one of my favorite colors. So I'll stand up so I can show you what it's looking like. So it's got these collars here coming around like this, and then it also has a hood in the back, which I'll show you. So this is the hood. Here we go. And I would never wear this in the rain. I mean, it's velvet. There's no way I would wear this in the rain. But the pattern has a hood, and I thought it was cute, so I did the hood. And then it's also going to have buttons down the center here. So the panels will kind of fold over like this, and there's going to be 2 sets of buttons like all the way down. And then there's these little straps that come around, and they will be buttoned in the back here. So it's kind of a waist shaping there, which I really like. And then there's also these little guys that come over and button on the sides here. I've already started making or sewing on the buttons on this side, so it just kind of stays there. And I've finished the cuff there. What I've actually gotten done since I last showed you guys this in my last episode, I sewed the, what is this, top stitching. I sewed the top stitching on the hood and on this all the way down, and I haven't done it on this side yet just because I don't really like how this came out, and I'm wondering if you guys have any suggestions. I'll put a closer up image of what I'm talking about right here, but how I sewed it here, the top stitching, it caught some of the fabric in a weird way, and it's pulling a bit, and I just don't know how to not have that happen. It's a really weird kind of a shape here. It's like a 90-degree angle, and the velvet, I think, is just so thick and dense that it doesn't want to lay flat. So when I top stitched over it, it just kind of put it in a weird spot. So that's like the only part about this coat that I really don't like how it's coming out. And it's also like right next to my face, so it's like always going to be visible, you know? Like it's not hidden in the back somewhere. So it looks unprofessional, and I really want to fix that somehow, even though I already did all of the top stitching. But I could rip it out, and, you know, if there's a better method. I did trim the seam allowances on the inside, so I tried to get rid of as much bulk of the fabric as possible on the inside because I heard that that might be causing the issue, but still this happened. So if you have any tips, if you're a seamstress or you like to sew or anything and you might know what's going on, I might redo it if there's a better method. But yeah, I really, really love how this coat is coming out. And there's also going to be a lining. So I don't have the lining on now. It's on my mannequin back there. But it's going to be in here. So it's a silk lining, and it feels so nice and so pretty. Yeah, and I really, really like the sleeves and the cuffs. This has been such a project. My goodness. I've learned so many things on this project. This is probably the biggest sewing project that I've ever taken on. It was my first set-in sleeves and my first top stitching and my first cuffs like this. The cuffs have kind of a couture hem, I believe. I'm not sure what it's actually called, but it's when you're sewing the hem and you pick up the very, very littlest bit of the outer fabric to connect the inner fabric with the outer fabric to sew the hem down. It's where you pick up the very, very littlest bit so that you can't actually see a seam anywhere on the outside, but it's nicely finished on the edge here where it's rolled under. I'm not actually sure what that's called, but that's what it is. And that just took so long to do and was a quite laborious process, but it's also very meditative. How, you know, you're hand stitching, when you're hand stitching, it's quite like knitting where you're really in the zone and you're just focusing on what you're doing, and I really, really like that aspect about it. And yeah, I really love how this pattern's coming out, besides this little piece right here. So yeah, if you have any tips on that, let me know. So I'm really going to try to work on this as much as possible in the next coming weeks. I really want to get the TestKnit done for Taylor Owen for that Owen cardigan, and then I also really want to get the pattern done for my mom's sweater so that I can get that out to test knitters and get that process going. But besides that, those are kind of my major deadlines with, oh my gosh, I have deadlines with the knitting, that's crazy. That's so silly to think about. I don't have deadlines, but you know what I mean. That's kind of the priorities right now. And then I will get back to this coat and finish it. I really need to finish it. But the lining's done and the top is almost done. I just need to do this top stitching here and then sew the lining to the inside of this and then do the buttons, and I think that'll be finished. I think that'll be it. So yeah, I'll have a coat finished for summer. Whatever. I'll wear it. It'll be fine. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe if you're not subscribed to my channel already. Comment down below if you have any suggestions or thoughts about what I showed you today. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.